That was, I have no idea what happened there.
Okay.
That just kind of blacked out.
Hi, folks. We are keeping it real.
Yeah, yeah, but that was on. I tell you, that
That's the
was
first time.
Facebook.
Is that the first time that's happened?
Never happened before, and the message was it was a Facebook. That wasn't a Be Live problem. That was a Facebook. They said, matter of fact, I'm looking over here. It was a Facebook thing. Yeah, that was strange.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
so okay, so just to get back, you're so okay, right? So lack of gear, obviously back then, lack of soft sticks. So it's safe to say, kind of more on the drilling
Yeah.
side.
More in the drill, much more in the drilling. I think there was a little bit. There was a little bit of nice sparring, but not that much because uh, people weren't respecting the knife. Even
They're just kind of
they're treating it like points rather than as though it was a knife. And
okay.
that's why Dan would have to stop it and say, you know what, um, you know, Joe, you got you don't win because you got 10 stabs the guy's got and he only got 8 stabs to your gut.
Hmm.
You guys got to take this. You got to not. You got to be a little bit more cool, a little bit more controlled, and so there was not a huge amount of that um, of the sparring. There was a time when there was staff sparring, and that was interesting. Um,
Staff. Ah.
yeah, staff. And it was interesting because it was interesting because just there were people that had some ideas, even some seniors that were like, "Well, I keep the staff kind of pointed behind me, so you don't really know where it's going to end up." And I'm like, "Well, I know it's behind you. If
Yeah.
mine's pointing at your face, guess where who's going to get there first?"
Yeah. I don't get that. Like,
TV.
wait, magically disappeared because it's behind him.
Yeah, there was one guy who was very much my senior, who was considered one of the cool kids, and we were all wearing masks. Actually, we were wearing masks, but at one point he started to do this big swing, and I just thrust straight at his face, and I pulled the strike. I didn't hit him,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was clear that I could have, and he got really bent out of shape. And I was like, well, I don't understand. I just indicated the strike. I didn't really hit you.
Right. Right.
And
Right. Yeah.
why are you stepping towards me with a big preparation? So don't,
Yeah. 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 So
but
then,
yeah,
so so all right. That was very interesting. Wow. I mean, like, I had no idea about some of that stuff. That was fascinating. So then
I'm
we're
making
getting
it
to
all
the
up.
80s.
I'm trying
What's
to keep it
that?
real. I'm just making it all up.
Yeah.
None of this is true.
So if I, all right. So if I go to some other people of that generation, they're going to say, like, I don't know what Steve was telling you, man, but that stuff is all crap.
That's right. Steve was just hanging out at Jack Wando's place, Napoleon Dynamite.
So, all right. So we're getting the 80s. So is it fair to say throughout the 80s, kind of the same format? It's more drilling,
The
not
focus
having
was on
sparring. How did you and the dog? Okay, so you obviously were part of the Dog Brothers. Is that safe?
it's I actually sparred a bit with Eric and uh, not sure who else at the academy before there was a Dog Brothers. It's
I
when
heard that. Okay, okay, okay. So
Dog
was that
Brothers.
the after hours?
Yeah,
Oh, so
yeah,
you were part of that too?
yeah. I guess so. I guess so, at least to some degree. I mean, how much did I do? I don't. You know, I got hit so much I can't remember too well. Um, but
Because you guys were having like the first generation fencing mats then. Those weren't really
yeah,
that.
I have my fencing mask from that era with the dings in it. With it's actually I'm glad
Yeah, I hear they weren't really the. They were, they were. I mean,
I got
they.
a saber. I'm glad to say that I was smart enough to get a saber mask, and a saber mask has a more reinforced interior. There's an interior bar here and across here, and it's a little
Oh,
bit
okay.
mesh on a saber mask than a fencing mask.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting because I've never heard. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. And then I did get the Philippine headgear with the padded and the really strong cage.
Oh, the more like kind of the with the Dose Paris, the weak half
Yeah,
kind of.
so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So then, all right. So then you didn't actually like get a dog brother name like Mad Dog.
at some point, I think at some point, somebody gave me a nickname, but it's like I did some training and was in the first kind of film where they had they published it, but there's real problems with the sound, and so I did some training. The main, I'd say, the thing that most came out of that um, was that the your wind of your stroke, that you can do strong striking for a long period of time.
Yeah,
You can strike with intention because if you it's kind of like if you run out of gas with empty hands, then you can't do anything. And it's like
yeah.
if your
That's what.
striking arm is kind of worn out from striking after you know a you know a half an hour or an hour of sparring, then again you can't do anything. Now the good news is uh, that a weapons confrontation is not going to last an hour. A
Yeah,
weapons confrontation,
God would
and
hope not.
the empty hand confrontation is likely to be very short, and it's even more likely to be that much shorter with a weapon, just because of either the impact or edge or whatever. It's going to be very
Mm,
short. So that's the good news. But nonetheless, and I did not at that point when I was doing that. My experience with dog birds, I had not. This is pre Edgar, so I did not have a robust strike. I was not economical, and I was not robust. It did not have what I like to call authority. It did not have that strike that is cultivated and seriously is a serious means business kind of strike. It took me,
mm.
time to develop that later, but it was
So
still a really
then,
good experience.
so then after that late night group or whatever. So was it like you, Eric? I think Burton and then Mark Denny, obviously. Um, so was it like what, under 10 guys or something or so?
Yeah, oh, yeah, fewer than that.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think it was just a handful of us knuckleheads that were doing some of that, and and I think there was you know, but I was not, I was there to get some experience, and
Yeah.
I still have this very um, burned in memory, just because it's got this frozen memory of Eric, Eric, Eric Knaus, just kind of airborne like this, with his stick here and just airborne flying towards me through the air. And I'm thinking, okay, this is not good.
Oh, so he actually under a roof is coming flying in?
Oh, Eric was just kind of like, I'm coming in. Go ahead and trying to hit me. Go ahead and trying to hit me. I don't.
Oh my God.
Now and it's interesting because since that time have come up with some solutions for that, which doesn't mean I still wouldn't prefer with Eric the solution of an elephant gun at 100 yards.
Mm.
Probably still the best solution for Eric. But uh, there are things. It's really interesting to kind of think about things later and just go, okay, what would have been a better response? And also there was sparring on. It's interesting. The surface matters because the sparring was on when we did some of the filming for the Dog Brothers thing was on grass, and moving your footwork on grass over a period of time gets very tiring.
No, it's definitely been a hard surface because your feet are. No, I always say that because your feet are actually they're sinking in a bit. No, definitely,
Oh,
absolutely.
it's tiring. It's tiring.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Eric was. I just have so much respect and props, not just because he's a badass, but Eric because he's such a a thoughtful, gentlemanly person. He was looking for the truth in combat,
Yeah.
but he was never a jerk.
No, I've heard like he wanted to find the truth, with the power strikes, how the person could handle, and at the same time, I also heard he was never arrogant. Oh, very,
Yeah,
calm leader. Yeah.
yeah,
I heard
yeah,
nothing but.
yeah. Really, really good person and encouraging.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I heard this very similar to what Bird has told me too,
yeah,
along those lines. So
yeah.
then that kind of that doesn't sound like it lasts that long there. The after night group there was kind of a short-lived thing.
Well, for me, but the idea of sparring and finding out about real timing and seeing what I could, what I could or couldn't do in real time, that certainly, was central to me, became central in my
Yeah.
training with partners and students.
So
Um,
okay, so that's what you got from him. That's fantastic. I mean, right. Um, so I guess next stop I'd like to go before we get on to it is
yeah,
you like when did you I guess meet PJ Edgar and the Lameko journey? How did that come about?
that's interesting. But then again, when you're Grandpa Simpson, it's always an interesting story because we had to carve our sticks out of rocks. Um, we, you know, uh, Dan was bringing in, Edgar introduced himself to Dan, and Dan immediately saw the value that this guy had, and
Yeah.
it was interesting because when the first session that Edgar had with Dan, it was like, um, he said, "Okay, well, so who's going to train who first?" And Dan was just like, "No, you're just training me. I'm
I
just going to."
heard that he didn't know basically what to do or how to. There was definitely I heard like some misunderstanding, I guess,
Yeah,
or
and it's unfortunate because cultural misunderstandings can be serious. I mean, fatal in the Philippines,
mm.
various places. But in any event, so Dan started to train with Edgar, and he was bringing in a lot of that material and talking a lot about Edgar in class. And I thought, well, this is great, but I don't need to train with Edgar because Dan's bringing all this material into class. Well,
uh,
I was also spending some time privately with Dan over at his place in Marina Del Rey. And there were times when Dan would, I did some training with Dan, but also Dan would have me help him with his training. So when Yorinaga Nakamura came over, he had me over at his place, help him train Yori with Chizao and things like that.
okay.
But there was this one time when I was over at Dan's, and and long story short, he said, Edgar's coming over here to give me my lesson at 3 o'clock, but I want to give you my lesson as a gift.
Oh, okay.
And so Edgar shows up, and he starts to just we go out in the back deck, and he starts to just kind of do a basic feed with me. And there was no strikes that I'd never seen, and it's not like it was the first time I'd ever been fed, but it was the strength and the quality of his feeding was so
Uh,
juicy and substantial that I just immediately thought, oh yeah, okay.
so
I've
you're
got
saying his intention
Yes,
like was
intention. Just like when he did, even if he wasn't doing a full speed strike at me, he was not. It was like there was a quality of you need to deal with this.
right because it's coming because if you don't, you're going to get it regardless of the speed and power. You're going to get hit by it.
He wasn't going to injure me, but he was
Yeah.
going to he was making me develop authority in my movement. And I just thought, wow, I need this feeding because,
Mm,
I mean, I don't think it's saying anything bad about the class, but because Edgar, put on Grody Edgar is, this level and coming from this environment. And so the quality of his feeding was, needless to say, very, very strong and very, there was an intention that I wanted to pick up on.
yeah.
And it was
No,
really
I've heard
about,
that.
and so that was in 1990. And
90.
so
Okay.
I trained privately with him in 1990.
All right. So that's where it kind of, yeah, that's where it started. So then at that point, you're doing, it was pretty much privates, correct?
Just private. I was still at the academy, involved with the academy, Inosanto Academy, and my teaching at the Inosanto Academy on behalf of Dan was primarily from 1985 to 1990. But then I was still there through 92, and then I just it was time to just kind of examine that stuff on my own. And I continued with Edgar, training with Edgar until his untimely death in 1997.
So, as far as your private training goes, what was the majority, I guess, of the focus? Was it, or was it everything, or just what was the
Yeah,
focus?
yeah, I would say it's everything. There was, but what I appreciated is that what became clear with it's like there's the Eskrima 1 through 12. It's the first striking patterns that you learn.
Yeah,
And then he would, so you're learning the patterns, but then he would also put on his, patented, his wonderful invented glove,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you so that that you hit that thing, but everything, the emphasis, the clear tactical emphasis was smash the hand, follow up to the head or body, smash the hand, follow up to the head or body. There
yeah.
was none of that stuff. None of those 12 patterns are block and then come back. It's always
Mm-hmm.
smash the hand, smash the head, or something, some other part of the body. And so
Right,
that
right.
that kind of sets the tone. Everything else to me um, was kind of much more uh, less important in terms of tactics or the real world application coming from him.
Okay. So, now, what did you, far as, how about the knife work?
Well, he had a nice um, and and what about that? I mean, we did do knife sparring. We did do knife
Yeah.
sparring. Um, but the sparring was just very different from the curriculum because sparring is sparring.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, so was it primarily just stick and knife with him? You
It was
did, or?
it was stick. It was there was stick. Then there was X amount of knife. There was double stick. There was
Yeah.
staff. There was actually some lubud, empty hand stuff. The quality, um, he didn't do necessarily as many variations as Dan and lubud, but there was a very juicy um, quality to his energy, his empty hand energy, that he said really came a lot from, I believe, his doing empty hand training with his Xingyi teacher. That
Huh.
he said really helped him develop a certain kind of cohesion and stickiness. And he actually showed me how to use a bowling ball to develop a certain kind of contact authority.
How interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
huh. So what? So when you, like, I guess, to be in a general sense, like, where did you most overall benefit from his tutelage? I mean, what did you take with you into this day that you were instilling, I guess, maybe not just in your own journey, but your students?
Um, what was most important to me was just dealing with the quality of his movement, trying to learn from dealing with the quality of his movement, being inspired by and having to learn under the pressure of the quality of his movement. So the curriculum to me was much less important than just moving with him in a freelance fashion.
Oh,
The
so that
more
was
things
okay.
I learned from him were just moving with him, we're sparring with him and moving with him in a freelance fashion, and trying to problem solve, and then to be able to whatever degree problem solve, get feedback from him and
Oh,
say,
okay, okay.
okay, this is seems to me that this is what's happening, or when I try and do this and you try and do that, what that is. So if you were able to formulate an articulate enough or an observant enough question, he would he would be honest with you and give you an honest response. But you had to figure some stuff out when
Okay,
you
okay.
keep getting hit.
Yeah. So was he as non-telegraphic as everybody says?
Um, he was good at telegraphing deliberately to take you
I'll
out.
get a response.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Um, but if he was not, then here it's just coming.
It's just coming.
Yeah, it's just and it's interesting. It's his thing was hand or head,
Yeah, yeah.
and what I understood as largo et media. In other words, the stick was you know, on or could have been touching my head, but he wasn't checking my hand. He had just gotten past my stick, and my stick was out in Oshkosh because he'd faked me out somehow, and the stick was there sitting.
Ah, okay.
So it wasn't like, so when we did get to media, there was no checking.
Mm, mm. Interesting. Wow. That must have been, I can only imagine. I just, obviously, as you know, just heard nothing but wonderful things about him, as a teacher and all that. And just, um, yeah, that must have just been incredible the time that you were able to spend with him.
Yeah, yeah. That was interesting. Is that me or you?
Not sure actually.
Okay. Ghost in the machine. Somebody over
Yeah.
at Facebook. But he was. I miss him as a human being. He,
Yeah.
regardless of the training, he was very
Mm,
wholehearted. He was thoughtful. He had a great sense of humor, and it was just a good, a wonderful human being, actually.
yeah, yeah. Obviously gone way too early. Um, so I want to before I definitely want to get into your what you just released as far as your training on a knife, the cognitive intuitive training knife, the volume 1 and 2 there, because I think it was just fascinating stuff, and I want people to hear about and all that directly from you. But before that, you actually did a series of tapes, like 17 thereabouts, or
Total of 18, actually.
okay, okay.
I mean, some of them were like a series, like my trapping 1 through 4, and then the flow of Filipino Collie Empty Hands 1 through 3, which is supplemented by my DVD on an hour on Lubud, and then an hour on that's a combination of Seco Ortobas and Tapi Tapi. But and then how that interacts with other drills and how all the counters to anything you do, and then there was an essential self-defense 1 through 4, and then there was actually even I did it for the sake of my classical teacher for when he was still alive, which was the hidden combat use of forms. So that was
Okay.
ode to how you can get some use out of traditional form and traditional training. And then there was the one on sectoring, which is time hitting, simultaneous defense and attack. And I suppose I don't know. Maybe that's oh yeah, an hour DVD on Chizao, which I like because I'm again trying to always less emphasize the game of Chizao and much more like what is its combative usefulness and how does
Okay.
it relate to the messiness of combat? Where does it fit in, and how do you make it relate to actual human responses and instincts?
Okay. I
So
just
that is that is one of the things that is kind of my a central concern of mine, or what are human combative instincts before we talk about a system or my system or that guy's system or any system or curriculum. It's good for us to say, well, what do normal people fight like?
mm,
You know, because it's not like it's not like a regular bar fight now looks different than a bar fight, 300 years ago. Although
yeah, right. Okay.
there may be more of a chance that somebody's going to try and grapple in an educated way or try and do some kind of kickboxing. But basically, people's instincts are still the same kind of messy haymaker,
Yeah, that big wide. Yeah.
messy thing that it's always been. And so, offensively and defensively, what are our instincts? What can we do to take advantage of those instincts? What can we do to try and get rid of those instincts in ourselves? What are the most robust ways structurally, in other words, technique, structurally, offensively and defensively? What are the most doable things? In other words, what is structurally robust, requires the least amount of precision, the least amount of cognition to pull off in real time, and the least amount of training to functionalize and then maintain. And those are
Okay.
big concerns because it's really easy to go down the road of how, ooh, this is so sophisticated and this is so. I'm thinking, yeah, it's really sophisticated, and it's also really unlikely that you'll ever be able to ever pull it off or ever need
Right.
to. You're never going to find yourself in that situation.
In the midst of chaos, or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. No, wow. So what would all right? I want to get it because again, I actually really enjoyed your material on these on the two sets of video. Well, I shouldn't say videos, but the online training, I guess. Um, what was your inspiration for coming up with the cognitive intuitive training knife material?
What was my what?
Your inspiration,
My
like,
inspiration, um, uh, addressing things in a way that I thought would be useful. Um, Starting from scratch as though I wanted to do what was, I know I can't say anything that's not controversial because everybody is going to say, well, of course we do that. And what makes you think that you have anything to say? But I wanted to start from scratch in a
yeah,
way that if I was going to say uh, teach a son or a relative, with not holding anything back and start and not do anything that I didn't think was of really important, and then maybe, after a certain point, then we can go down some paths and say, well, even though this is not unlikely to happen, here's the thing that can happen. But first of all, for example, the fighting measure.
okay,
So in traditional, the most common way to address distance traditionally is to say there's Largo, and we both stick our hands out and we show how the tips of our stick can touch, or knife, let's say stick, because the range is more clear, the differences. We touch each other's hands with the stick, with our arms extended. That's Largo. Then we can touch
okay,
each other's head with a stick or body. That's media. And we can touch each other's head or body with the butt of the stick. That's Corto. But that does not address what the fighting measure is.
mm,
Fighting measure is when you're standing there in front of somebody without your hand extended. Are they close enough to hit your hand or your head or any? Are they close enough to touch you with a stick or a knife or anything without taking a step. If they can touch you without taking a step, then you are inside the fighting measure.
Okay.
Now, some people want to be inside the fighting measure because they want to because they know either that people are going to be telegraphic and then you're close to intercepting them.
Okay.
People want to say have a hand inside the fighting measure because they want to have that hand inside the fighting measure. Let's say holding a knife, they want to be holding the knife out because they're saying, well, this protects the body and this keeps you away from all this important stuff. Well, except that this is the knife hand is a central target to any educated knifer.
Yeah.
So that's I don't want to get that cut.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't want to have any part of me inside somebody's fighting measure where they can touch me without taking a step, because then there's a good chance that I don't have enough time to see a non-telegraphic strike coming.
Yes. Interesting.
Where you've seen a preliminary movement, then you can say, oh, they're telegraphic, and maybe I can put my hand out and forward to intercept them, or maybe I need to keep it in because they're telegraphic. So, but as a default, I like to have my hand further in, but I also like to start with what is the fighting measure and then move around with somebody. So that's one of the drills that I show is the Frankenstein drill, where I have my hand extended.
Okay.
Hand is drawn in a fighting position. And then I cannot quite touch them with my hand completely extended.
Okay. Okay.
Forward and back and circling, and they are staying at that measure to know that they have that to stay, just the ability to recognize the fighting measure and flow. Okay, so because it's if we say, okay, we're going to work on Largo or long range with a stick, but we're inside the fighting measure and I'm cooperatively not really reaching out to hit you in the head. And I'm just kind of putting my stick out there in midair for you to hit my hand, then you don't really ever need to learn the fighting measure.
No. Wow. Wow. Good point. Yeah.
Just kind of cooperatively clicking high, low, high, high, low, high.
Right. Yeah, right. I mean, like, yeah, you're not learning. You're right. You're not learning to measure there because you're making contact. I mean, right.
Yeah. So
no, I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. So I actually have to start kind of, obviously mild and reach out for somebody's head so that they actually, or reach out for the hand, but I have to make them actually understand the fighting measure. So that's first. And then it's a common thing, even with people that have long range as a really important thing, that very often you start with media, where you learn the roof blocks and the sweeps. And
Yeah.
And again, I'm thinking, well, you're learning that, but that's not the first stuff that, again, if I'm teaching somebody that I care about, they said, look, Steve, I've got to be in a fight next month. I can't talk my way out of it. Teach me how to fight with a stick. I'm not going to start showing them a roof block and an inside sweep, and I'm not going to be showing them counter to counter. I'm sure as hell not going to be showing them Lubud, and I'm not going to be showing them. I'm going to try and get them to develop an economical but authoritative strike. I'm going to get them to understand the fighting measure. I'm going to get them to understand how to hit somebody that doesn't understand distance, or the telegraph's on the way in, and hit them on the before, because that's something that's very underworked, is hitting somebody when they pull their stick back. When they pull
Okay. Yep.
Hit them now, hit them then. And yet, while you're doing that, still staying at the fighting measure, because if you screw up, you don't want to put yourself in danger.
Yeah, you don't want to be left, hanging there. Yeah.
I mean, because it's so easy to show badass curriculum where, you boom and you go and you chop.
Yeah.
There's so much technique that you can see on videos where people do this thing and turn people into hamburger, but it's always, I love that this is the way that Edgar said it. He said, Steve, if you just put your stick out there, of course, everybody can look like a magician. Everybody can go,
Yeah.
what can you do when that stick?
Yeah, when that thing's coming, God knows how many miles per hour at
Yeah,
power. Yeah, right.
And so what I'm trying to do is start from, and then really examine. So there's no long chain technique. There's no long chain technique. There are tactics and their applications. And then there's the drilling process by which you learn to see that. Because perceiving, responding to something in the moment is a different thing than memorizing or responding or remembering a pattern. You're using a different
Yes.
part of the brain in a different way. So it is a training process. So one of the things that seems really not sexy at all, because you see a lot of drills that are really sexy where people are
Yeah, they're aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, yeah.
really, it's like, oh, that's so cool. The cool factor is very high. But something that's not particularly sexy as a drill is where I'm feeding somebody, and whether it's with a knife or the stick, sometimes I step in and I telegraph, and I want them to smash me or cut me as they move to safety. Because if you cut me, but you don't move to safety, if that was a fake, then you're
No,
still,
your center mass is
yeah.
in fine. Yeah.
I want people to cut me or smash my hand as I telegraph but move to safety. So sometimes I telegraph, sometimes I don't telegraph, sometimes I don't telegraph. Sometimes I actually strike knowing that they're not close enough to hit me so they see the time to hit after. And
Okay.
sometimes I want them to see that now the after strike is here. Now the after strike is here. And sometimes I'll step in and I want them to understand now that the after strike would be here. So I just
Right.
feed them so that they, without thinking, they're getting the before, the on the prep, or the during, or
Right.
the after.
Ah, I love it. Yeah.
Things that
Yep.
do
Before,
before.
during, after. Yep.
Because if you're doing a drill where it's again where the range is set, then you don't have to find where that range fits in the moment. So we say with stick, um, a roof block. You do a roof block because you screwed up.
Mm,
Is not something that you wanted to do. You wanted to smash somebody at long range, and a roof block is something you do because somebody faked really well, managed to get in, or you thought you were going to smash somebody's hand and they had good enough distance or whatever that they were able to now, after that fake, get in, and that's when you roof. So that's the way I like to train it. It's not counter for counter, but striking at somebody and having them hit my hand at Largo and hit it at
yeah.
Largo, and then now and then fake and force my way into media so that they have to do a roof or
Right.
a sweep or whatever. But
Right.
the media, anything is a have to do thing. It should be not a want to do thing, but a have to do thing. It's the
Right.
same thing with a knife. I'll feed at Largo and I'll move around with somebody, and I'll feed at Largo and I'll move around with somebody. But then at a certain point, I'll force my way into media, and that's when they'll check and cut and cut and cut until they can move out or I drop the blade. To me,
Ah.
that's starting to be more towards a useful real world thing, if I may be so bold or arrogant or whatever that is that people might think that is.
No, I think it's fantastic, and I think it's completely truthful. I mean, no, I like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed both the one and two of the, but I really also liked, maybe you could touch on too, is, and again, there could be somebody else there that has addressed this. Maybe I just don't know of them or haven't heard of them, but I really like how you and some of the, I got a glimpse of this on some of your YouTube videos, but also more importantly, I got the majority of it from, the cognitive intuitive training knife project that you came out with. Is that you really look at things from what to do on the defensive side. Like it's so collaborative. If I hope I'm making sense.
No, not at all. You can take another pass at it. You mean, I think this is what you're, maybe tell me if this is what you're talking about. That, like with, there's one of the things that's, I think, just one of the most useful skills is time hitting.
Okay.
Simultaneous defense and attack. But that's a different thing than simultaneous attack and defense. I know it sounds like I'm splitting hairs to some people, but the proof of what I'm saying is that even world-class boxers, you see them rarely when they hit, they drop. When you see them punch, you see them drop their rear hand. Even
Mm-hmm.
this is you see even the guy that's knocking some guy out, and this hand is down. And I'm thinking, and that's how so many knockouts happen. Is both people are punching, and somebody had that hand down.
Something
So,
right.
so one of the things as a drill that I think is useful, and tell me if this is what you're trying to get at, is I have a student just throw just a jab cross, touching lightly my chest.
Okay.
And periodically, while they're just in nonstop jab cross, I'll throw this hook, I'll throw this hook, I'll throw this punch, I'll throw this punch. Just I can throw low, I can throw whatever it is that I want in the middle of that, and they have to be able to comfortably change up their attack to do whatever is the most efficient defense in the middle of their attack, and then go back to the attack.
And then to cover that. Yeah, no, that was partially it, but also, I guess, example, and yeah, I'm seeing where you're going with this, and it is helping. In other words, in the volume 2, when you were talking about um, drifting and where like on when you flipped it, I never seen anybody kind of address it like that. Well, what do you do if somebody drifts on you? Is that again? I'm hoping that helps.
Drift specific. Okay, well, first of all, let's make sure the audience understands what we're talking about. Okay, and this file under, in terms of weapons work, I would file this under most important and least addressed thing. So many of us are taught, okay, once we've gotten past media, whatever the curriculum is, and you're taught, okay, really just smash the hand.
Yeah.
The hand. We're okay, good. That's nice. But what seems to be what I'm calling the 800-pound gorilla sitting in the room that nobody's talking about is, okay, so I'm going to tell you how to smash my hand. But what happens if you try and smash my hand? How do you not only not let that happen, but how do you take advantage of that?
Yes, and that's where I found I haven't really up to this point seen anybody really address it from that perspective. You were doing short and arc. You addressed it with short and arc and drifting. If I'm not mistaken.
You're mistaken. Those are two. There are actually 5 majors and several and 3 or 4 minor. I'm calling them countertime because in Jeet Kune Do terminology, technical terminology, which is drawn much from fencing, a time hit is the simultaneous defense and attack.
Correct.
Okay, but if, let's say I'm punching you and you were going to try and do this to me, if you were going to simultaneously defend and attack me, how do I take advantage of that? How do I change up and take advantage of that in mid-flow? And so countertime is attacking somebody's simultaneous counterattack. That's what that is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So there are 5 majors and several minors. And how specific did you want me to get?
This is what what I found really profound when I watched them. This is what really drew my attention is when you were going into this stuff. That's what really
You just froze up.
Okay. When
Let's see
what's
if
that?
Facebook cuts us off again. Okay, there
I
you are.
froze up.
You're
Okay.
back.
Okay. Was, again, what I found really unique and profound that I'd never really heard explained like that before is basically what we touched on. So I don't know if there's kind of an easy way for you to do it, for the audience, maybe just to get.
Without giving away the farm.
Yeah. Right. So they could, right, because I don't want to ruin that.
First of all, people can see some of what we're talking about if they go to vimeo.com/on-demand/Steve Grody Martial Arts or something like that. If you just do a search for Vimeo, Steve Grody Martial Arts, you'll find me. You'll see my trailer and you'll see some of what I'm talking about, even though I'm not explaining it on the trailer. And that is that, first of all, there is counter time can be on the fly or deliberate. And that means that I'm deliberately trying to get you to cut for me so I can change up.
Yes.
I happen to be sincerely cutting for you when I see that you're cutting for me and I change up. And one of those ones that's if you're expecting, if I'm trying to get this on the camera, if you're expecting to cut me on the inside of my wrist here,
Yes.
your blade is here, but then before you get there, let me see, there we are.
Yeah.
Good. I got to change right to left. Before you get there, I draw my blade in so that I have effectively changed up who is cutting who.
Correct.
So I have shortened my arc. And you could do that 10 times to somebody, and they're generally just going to, first of all, you're not going to do that 10 times with somebody in a knife fight. Duh. Oh, it was a butter knife. No wonder I kept cutting him and nothing happened. It was the butter knife. But you can spar with somebody. I'll put it that way. You can spar with somebody and repeatedly. I've told all my students how to counter me. One of the things that really bothers me are teachers that don't explain what they're doing. I find it, there's that wonderful blues line from a blues song, no use winning at a losing game.
Okay.
And I know people that their goal is to see how much they can keep somebody around and how little they can actually really teach that's important to them. And I just don't feel that way. I feel like either go be real or go home. Do something that you really believe in, or don't teach it.
Well, plus of that, if you're telling them and all that, it's gonna raise your game. I mean, yeah.
I show my students how I'm getting in on them.
Yeah.
Do that to me, and then I have to show them I have to figure out the next counter, and then I have to go to the next counter.
Right. So you're actually bettering. I mean, it comes full circle. Yeah, I know. Like, like they're going to keep it with them and die with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because that's not just martial arts. I was reading this book. John Blofeld was this really interesting guy. He was a Tibetan Buddhist, but from England. But he did a lot of wandering through China before the revolution, and so he saw a lot of really interesting old world stuff. But he even ran into cooks that were like, oh, young students these days, they just want to learn the secrets of how to do Peking duck right away. I'm going to die with my secrets, my cooking secrets. Something, wow. So it's not just martial arts. It's like, painters.
Yeah, that would make sense, right? It's all over. Yeah.
Ego. It's just human ego. I would rather further the dialogue. Now, people are not going to necessarily agree with everything I say, but there's a lot that I'm saying that I feel the evidence is really strong, and you can see it in interactions. In any event, you're asking about counter time technique, and counter time technique is how you change up your line while somebody's trying to hit or cut you so that you end up hitting or cutting them. So it's not avoiding getting cut or hit with a stick. It's how do you actually take advantage of somebody's stick coming out at you.
Right.
Now, I know that the Illustrissimo gang call this creating a gap or using a gap.
Yeah.
I did not do this. And, and so there are some people that I've talked to about this stuff and say, oh, well, yeah, this is Illustrissimo, right? Because you trained with Edgar, and Edgar, learned from Illustrissimo. And so
yeah.
I had to figure this all out on my own. This is not part of the Waco curriculum. I really appreciated my time with Edgar, but what I did was tried to figure out answers to how he got by me, and that's a lot of what this is. So it relates to it, but it's what I learned in my research, because it was interesting. There was a point when I was studying with Dan, I was studying with Edgar, but then I would spar and I'd think, wait a minute, I'm just doing what I'm doing, and it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with either what I learned from Dan or Edgar. I'm just
okay.
What is that I'm doing intuitively that works, and what is it that's not working, and how do I change that? And the first thing I realized that was really important to me was about just shortening, not shortening, but ellipsing my arc. In other words, I realized that there was a lot of time there. There I am. I know I'll figure this out by the time we finish our conversation. I realized that in my sparring, there were too many times when I would cut somebody, but I would get a trade cut. We'd both cut each other. That sucks.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I don't feel good that we're even.
Yeah, right.
That's because the cut was going through, but not upon contact drawing in. And so
okay, yep, okay.
That's the first thing I figured out, and it's on my notes. It's like during 1994 was a really important year for me in terms of figuring things out, and trying to look at my own flaws and problems and say, okay, I can't just say I'm getting hit, deal with it. I want to say,
no, you got it right.
And so I realized that when I cut for somebody, the default trajectory has to go out to the point of contact or intended contact and then draw back towards
And start coming back.
Immediately. Same thing,
yes.
Backhand line upon contact or intended contact, it has to draw back, because otherwise, if I keep just going through, there's a really good chance to be a trade.
Well, the limb, right, the limb being out there.
Yeah. But then there's a drill that has to complement that, which is to say, there's a time when you contact somebody and you see there's a chance to do a second strike. Boom, boom. Very economical second strike. I got the cut and you got the cut and they're still drawing through, so do the second cut. Time when maybe you missed the first cut, and that's when you have to disengage to get away, or you just pull through to make sure that you're not going to get a trade cut or get faked out. So the tight X, and that was just a huge, really important thing from Edgar, is distinguishing between a figure 8
and Akis.
Yeah, Akis.
Yeah.
That was important because offensively and defensively, that's a really important thing. So that offensively, if you get that first strike, you're going to get the second strike in while something hopefully is still in range.
Yeah.
If somebody faked you on this one, then you're hopefully going to beat them back to the cut. If somebody fakes and then goes and they don't do it super efficiently, then you will beat them to their attempt to fake you out. You'll intercept their deception. You'll intercept their fake.
So, wait. That's a neat way of putting it, intercepting their deception. That's
yeah. I mean, that's why I say at one point, look, the timings fleshed out. There's getting somebody on their preparation, that's the before. There's getting
Yep.
somebody on their extension or the development, that's the during. There's
Yeah.
getting somebody on the after. You see how this big after here, this big after here, the big after here, or in this case, the after is right here in the center still.
Right. Before it returns.
Yeah. So that's before those are the three basic timings. But when you start to mix it up, I say, and I'm kind of self-conscious when I say it on the video. I say, look, there is before, during, and after the before, during and after the during, the after. Give me a minute here. I know it sounds like I'm splitting hairs.
No.
There's a way that understanding is important. Those interactions. Notice that all those timings are dealing with a single hit. It's like I want to deal with and the thing where you do 10,000 strikes to somebody or a dozen strikes to somebody, I don't care about that kind of stuff. I just care about the first exchange.
Yes.
That's at your place, not mine.
No, yeah, that is. Sorry about that. That was me.
I should have done some of my I don't know, quick one-line jokes while you were away.
Yeah, you could have kept right. Kept it going.
Oh,
But
man runs into a bar, says, "Ow." Okay. Anyway.
yeah.
So it's those initial interactions that I think are really important, rather than 10 strikes after 10 strikes of follow-up. It's the
Okay.
first of how you avoid a strike, how you counter a strike, how you get a strike, and then maybe a follow-up or those interactions. And it has to be in flow. It just has to be in flow. And how do you and what is the training method by which you develop that skill? Something by the way that I wrote down here that we hadn't quite mentioned yet is that it's interesting that in the tradition, it's like one of my friends studied with a very prominent Filipino teacher who shall remain unnamed. And he was one of many people that did seminars at Dan's place over the years. And my friend has talked about how, he was like the best guy in the Philippines. And he'd been in all these matches and all this stuff. And I don't doubt that this guy had mad skills, but the curriculum showed the kind of media stuff. I just thought, I'm sorry. I don't like it. It's, putting a hand on a stick to help block something. Whoa, that's not going to ever be my first go-to method. And so there are indeed teachers that were great, are great, but are they teaching you what they really do?
Okay.
And so that's one thing. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that something that I think is good to always think about, whatever it is that we are learning, is just simply always having that question hanging over our head, which is, if this thing fails, where does it leave me? Okay. So if my block fails, where does that leave me? Okay, that's one of the reasons why Largo is such a robust general strategy, is because if I try to smash your hand but I didn't get it, I'm still at a relatively safe range.
Right. Exactly.
So
right.
It gets.
It can get it can get ugly real quick. Yeah.
So that's
no, that's interesting. No.
I just remember years ago when Jackie Chan was really making his way into the American audience, and Inside Gung Fu magazine did an interview with him, and he showed this technique where some guy throws a jab and Jackie jumps up in the air and falls onto the ground and kicks him in the groin. Now, I know that he knows better than that. I know Jackie Chan knows something about real fighting. But he did what he was expected to do, which was something cool and acrobatic.
Right.
But nonetheless, I thought, okay, well, what if that jab was a fake? And you're in the middle of the air going, whoop, 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 wait, wait, wait.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be an issue.
If that jab was a fake, now you're just kind of sitting on the ground and, in
Yeah.
a vulnerable position.
For yourself, for no reason there. Yeah.
So we have to say what if and how about at every step of our thing. What if this doesn't work? Or what if somebody does this, and whatever it was we do, if it doesn't work out according to plan,
Yeah.
where does that leave us? How vulnerable?
No, I love it. Yeah. What do you because what do you have for just for any future projects you thinking of?
Yeah. One thing is that I want to take all of my existing video material and kind of break it up so that people can select what parts of it that they want to get, because that's the way of the world. People don't buy albums these days; they buy songs of CDs.
Yeah, right. I know they download one song. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's the same thing with training material, any kind of physical training. So I'm going to break my stuff up so it's all streaming, and you can bundle bits and pieces and things like that. I'm going to redo probably my my Kali, my flow of Filipino Kali empty hands. I'm going to redo some of my stuff so it's just the film quality is a little bit better. I also am planning on doing. I also have already written the curriculum for CIT stick, cognitive intuitive and training stick.
Oh, you got a stick one coming out. Oh, fantastic.
I also have the rough curriculum for double stick. Now, here's the thing with double stick. If somebody said, well, I just don't feel like doing double stick, I just don't see where it's useful, I was saying, well, you're not crazy. I mean, there's a lot of rationalized curriculum. We do double stick because it's supposed to be good for the empty hands. Well, but you could be a Sinawali machine and still have really crappy empty hands.
Yeah.
Unless you do empty hand training, and there's nothing that you learn from doing Sinawali with double stick that you couldn't just do straight with empty hands. I know that sounds blasphemous to some people, but so it goes. One of the things, the reason why double stick is popular is because you can have 10,000 patterns to teach people.
Oh my God.
And the thing is,
yeah.
I was reading an article one time, and the guy said, well, we have 100 patterns. We have 100 Sinawali patterns in our system. And I thought, yeah, well, in Inosanto, in the Inosanto curriculum, there's 256 variations just on 6 count. And Dan would be the first one to say that doesn't matter if you don't understand timing and distance. That if
right. It doesn't matter what you're remembering or how much memory you have. Yeah.
You understand Caveman Cobb, then you're going to be ahead of the guy that knows the Villa Brea 2042 count.
Yeah, right.
And so, but there's, so even though double stick is not the most important thing, I think that since people like doing it, there are some training methods that I don't see being done to make it more open, fluid flowing, and how do you make those patterns spontaneous and really fit in with whatever's in front of you. So I'm going to do a Sinawali thing. I want to do something on staff.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Part of the stick. And then I also would like to do a 5th volume on trapping, which I would think about calling actually advanced trapping.
Advanced.
The reason I would say actually advanced is because it's not more extended patterns or complicated
Yeah.
patterns, but how to accomplish less with how to accomplish more with less movement in trapping where it's appropriate.
What do you, just getting back to the first project, what would be stick? Like any general time frame?
Man, I hope that it's before 2052. You know, I gotta say, it took me 4 years to do this knife thing with my partner, but that's partly because we were doing it ourselves. I had to learn how to edit,
Yeah.
and we were figuring out the filming process. Now it's going to take a much less quick time,
Okay.
which means a longer time. It's going to take a much shorter time to put together. So once we get past the present state of madness in the world,
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
I hope everybody's staying safe and being
Yeah.
good out there and good health and good practice and good luck.
Yeah.
That I'll be back with my partner working on this stuff, and it'll be a matter of months because I have the curriculum there and we know how to get it done, and that the stick one, I would be immediately knowing how to do it in bits and pieces, so I could publish it streaming as bits and pieces.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
So that's one thing there. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's just fantastic. Working. I want to let people know. I know you referenced it before, but people that may have interest, because I've been spreading it around, and actually somebody bought it after they were talking to me about it. Your knife thing, George Shabir, I believe. But where can they just somebody who does want to follow? Should they go to Vimeo, or where can they? I guess.
How they get it, they can't get it from me. They go to vimeo.com/on-demand/Steve Grody martial arts. So if that was too long for anybody to write down, just say vimeo.com Steve Grody, and it'll get you there.
They'll be able to. I'm gonna put this. I'll put this down, of course,
And,
too.
they can
But
always ask me on Facebook if they have any questions, or they want to tell me why I'm full of crap. They can always find me on Facebook.
you know,
You've insulted my family, and you have insulted the island of Mindanao. Prepare.
yeah, you haven't. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, you know, yeah. So it's a what was I going to say? Something really really relevant that has to do with the first strike. Well, anyway, if I can remember, I'll send it to you and as a post. Some
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. No, I mean, because
So
this one actually.
there were no comments coming up on Facebook, or it's just that
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sure. I'm over here. Rudy Franco. Uh, said howdy. Good to see you again. He's a Lameko guy. Um, and then there was the one who asked about um, if you actually had a dog brother name,
you
a
know,
dog brother name.
I'm a
Um,
Indian mixed grill. I am I I have a few students, and I also have been for the last 30 years documenting the graffiti scene, primarily in LA, and I've written about that and done professional things surrounding that. And then when there are times when I'm for several weeks at a time in Iowa, and I end up teaching swing dance for the university there.
yeah,
So I'm just your average martial artist, graffiti dancing, graffiti documentarian, swing dancer. What I was going to say is my last chance to insult people before I go, so I'm going to take advantage. Um, I've noticed I've noticed that there are some times where people do really interesting sequence with each other, and so I do something, and then you counter this strike, and then I
yeah,
counter your strike, and you counter my strike, and then I put you into the ground.
yeah.
But you'll notice first thing I did was a big telegraph.
Okay.
So when I see somebody showing a technical sequence, but the first thing they do is a feed like that simply
Mm.
I'm thinking, well, there's the problem right there,
Yeah.
because that's the first thing that I want to respond to
Right.
is
Because before. Right.
exactly before. Now, you can't always take advantage of it because, say, of distance, or maybe you're not sure whether that was a setup, but it
Mm.
shows a sophisticated sequence. But they're starting with this telegraph, or they're starting with this telegraph, and I'm thinking, well, you've just told me that I don't really have a lot of faith in what you do in that whole technical cool sequence, because
Yeah.
if your actual instinct is to do that, then I'm already respecting less what
Yeah.
comes out.
Yeah. They're right. They're already starting out. Yeah. Yeah.
People sometimes will say, well, of course we teach our students to do this and do like this at the beginning, but then we end up being more economical. Well, I'm thinking that's like saying, okay, I'm going to teach you to speak Russian first so that you can speak French.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you to jab. I'm going to teach you to jab like this first,
Yeah.
this first, and
As
later,
opposed, right.
we're going to keep it real. And later, I'm going to show
Yeah.
you jab without going like this. Why would you do that? If
No.
listen,
No. No. Yeah.
if it's hard as an intuitive habit to get rid of the telegraph, then why don't we start from day one working on that?
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not saying that I have arrived and that I no longer telegraph, or that I no longer have any bad habits, or that if I punch, I don't drop my rear hand.
Mm.
Everything that I'm critiquing about everybody, I can still see in myself. And so it's an
Yeah.
ongoing battle to improve. It's an
No.
ongoing,
Right. I mean, right. You have to hold yourself accountable and
yeah,
strive to be the best version of yourself. Right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully a better version.
Yeah. But this has
You,
been an absolute pleasure. Matter of fact, this is because it's been so interesting. This is actually my longest one I've ever done. Well, because we had the first one we got cut off. So we're already at close to an hour and 15 minutes. And I think the other one was 15, 20 minutes. So I'm going to have to figure out how to put them together. But um,
it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy.
yeah, yeah, I'm going to get them on YouTube, but I'll definitely will send it to you and all that. Um, but again,
Appreciate you having me on. I appreciate the dialogue. I appreciate you that you're somebody that's looking for, you're for what's real, trying to figure it out and thinking about things, and not going down the religious road of,
yeah, no, anything but actually.
yeah, it's the thing that I like from Dan Inosanto is what Bruce Lee told him is, yeah, I expect you to appreciate what I'm showing you, but your first loyalty is not to me, it's to the truth, to
Yeah.
your truth as you experience it, and your attempt to understand what's real, and
Mm,
that's you know, hopefully what we're all doing.
yeah, yeah. No, better. Yeah, can't say that better. But yeah, and I want to thank you again, and I definitely will be reaching out. Those Skype discussions, they were just too good. So they were just.
Uh, I, of course, love everybody, respect everybody, had nothing critical to say about anything or anybody except myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Dean, and
Yeah. No, thank you,
I'll be
and
talking to you.
I'll be in touch.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All
Take
right,
care.
sir. Thanks
Take care.
again.
Bye bye.
Take care. All right, that was a long one. There was definitely some glitches. Facebook went out, this went out. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna uh, see what's going on. Try to put it together. But tomorrow morning, Jarlo. So we'll see you again. Thank you.